Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around, I went around the shelves of movies I've got, and I was looking for something specific. I was looking for movies I want to rewatch. And so I thought I'd do the movies I want to rewatch in the next month or two. Whether I'm going to do them all or not's up in the air. I'm a bit mercurial when it comes to those things. I'll think I'm going to watch that, and then something else will get my attention, and I'll watch that other thing instead. At least some of them I'm going to watch over the next couple of months. Let's just put it that way. So let's get started with an umbrella release. This one isn't for everybody. It leaves a bad taste in some people's mouth. It's Peter Greenaway's The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, which is an arty film that gross in parts, but it's really interesting. And I haven't seen it for decades. I know it's got Michael Gambon in it and Helen Mirren, and Helen Mirren gets her kid off, and it's gross as hell in parts. And I remember one particular part that I won't spoil, which grossed me out enormously when I first saw it, but I'm going to watch it again. I bought this one a couple of months ago when there was a sale on a JB Hi-Fi, and I got it quite cheaply. It's Region B. I kind of like these art house gross out movies. It feels very much like a midnight movie, and I'm going to probably watch it as a midnight movie. I'll watch it late at night and just have a go with it. The disc also contains a documentary about Peter Greenaway, so you can do a little bit of a deep dive there. I looked at it on the shelf there and thought, yeah, I want to rewatch that and just see how I feel about it now. I kind of found it a bit pretentious and a bit over the top when I first watched it, and that particular dining scene grossed me out a bit, but nonetheless, I'm going to give it another go. This one's part of the Beyond Genres series that Umbrella put out a while back, and there's a lot of good movies in that series, so I'm going to rewatch that one. While I'm on the subject of Umbrella, one of my favourite Australian exploitation movies from the early 1970s, directed by Sandy Harbert, Stone, the best Australian biker film ever made. Set in my hometown of Sydney, a biker gang sees a political assassination and gets targeted by the powers that be, and an undercover cop called Stone, played by Ken Shorter, is sent to hang out with them and to find out what's going on. This one's a little hard to find because it's a classic, and it's one of those cult films that everybody has heard about but nobody really has seen outside of Australia. And the lovely thing too is that this one's all region, and it's got this groovy Japanese cover on the back, which I really like. The other thing I like about this movie is it's set in the Sydney where I grew up. I was wandering around Sydney in the 1970s as a teenager when this movie was made. And so I see a lot of the places as they were when I was misspending my youth, going to the cinemas in the city and watching 4 or 5 movies a day in the cinemas in the middle of Sydney, usually on George Street. There were like 8 or 9 cinemas on George Street. And you just go down there and just pop from cinema to cinema. And if you timed it right, you could probably get 5 or 6 movies watched in a day. Stone makes me nostalgic for that. Fantastic supporting cast too. Hugh Keys Burns in there, Vincent Gill, Roger Ward, whole bunch of really heavy hitters. It's just one of those great 1970s Australian films. And then I thought I wanted to watch a couple of James Gunn movies because we know the Superman movie's coming out soon. And I've got kind of high hopes about it. And I want to see what James Gunn does with Superman. And so I thought I would watch a couple of his earlier movies, the ones before he worked for Marvel, when he was just showing his chops to the industry before he got the gig to do Guardians of the Galaxy and all the things that followed. And so I thought I would check out another James Gunn superhero movie, which is more like a vigilante movie in some ways, and it's Super, with Rainn Wilson, Elliot Page, who else is in there? Kevin Bacon, Liv Tyler, Nathan Fillion. Really dark movie in some ways, about a schlubby guy played by Rainn Wilson who decides to become a vigilante. And he may be somewhere on the neurodiverse spectrum, or he may be just totally crazy. Really, really dark film, but also very, very funny as well. And Kevin Bacon plays a fantastic villain in this one. And there's a tagline down the bottom, sharp crime. So I wonder what's that one. Who was in there? Michael Rooker's in there as well. Sean Gunn, Greg Henry, Linda Cardellini. So yeah, really good actors in this one. And I haven't seen it for about a decade, so I want to rewatch Super. And the other one is one of James Gunn's movies where he was in transition from writing Tromeo and Juliet for Troma films. and getting into mainstream. And this one stars Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, Michael Rooker, and Greg Henry again. Slither, about a whole bunch of alien parasites that come to Earth and do very, very gross things. This again is from the Beyond Genres series that Umbrella did. There's one of the other iconic bits of artwork there. Gross out monster movie, very funny, but also very gross and very unexpectedly icky at times. And it is a different kind of body horror because it does combine body horror, science fiction, and humor in a way that James Gunn has almost trademarked these days. So we've got that one, and I'm going to watch that one again before I watch Superman. While we're talking about trashy movies, this one I love. It's a Charles Band movie, and I've managed to get a 4K of it for some reason. Starring the wonderful Tim Thomerson, also stars Helen Hunt. First in a series of 5 movies, and after the second movie, the franchise and the series falls off a big cliff. Trancers, which in Australia was first released as Future Cop for no good reason. But Trancers is great. Time travel movie. Tim Thomerson plays Jack Death, a bounty hunter who goes back to inhabit the body of one of his ancestors to stop a time-jumping criminal oligarch from messing up the future. I love this one. VHS era fun. Really groovy movie. Set at Christmas time too, so it is a Christmas movie. And it's got lots of blood, guts, and humour in it. And at the moment, with the odd things happening in various parts of the world, a bit of humour is probably called for. We need a little bit of comedy and a little bit of fun and a little bit of blood, guts, and gore just to make us happy. And while we're on the mood for happy, a bit of a rom-com doesn't hurt now and then. I'm not ashamed to say that I like a good rom-com, and this one's a good rom-com. It's an Australian movie from about 8 years ago, which is set in one of my favourite places in Australia, Darwin, up in the Northern Territory. I love Darwin, and I love the people up there. So it's Miranda Tapsong, Gwilym Lee, and a bunch of other people, including Steph Tisdale. Top End Wedding. It's about an English guy who meets and falls in love with and gets married to a beautiful Indigenous woman, played by Miranda Tapsell. And they go up to Darwin to have a top-end wedding up at the top end of Australia. It's really great. It's got a lot of cultural stuff. It's very First Nations fun. It's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. And one of the reasons they go into the top end is to track down Lauren's mother. Lauren's being played by Miranda Tapsell, who's gone missing because they want the mother to be part of the wedding. And there's a bit of family history with that. This one is one of those Australian movies that didn't get a lot of release elsewhere. Doesn't get spoken about much, but it's one of those movies that I love because it's good-hearted, it's fun, it's interesting, and it reminds me of the fact that I haven't been back to Darwin for about 10 years. And I'd really love to go back there if I got the opportunity and the money and somebody to look after the cats. Darwin is one of my 2 or 3 top favourite places in Australia. I like Perth, I like Sydney, kind of like Melbourne where I live. But I definitely love Darwin. This Richard Rush movie doesn't get talked about enough. I haven't even taken it out of the plastic yet, come to think of it. So it's Peter O'Toole, Barbara Hershey, Steve Railsback, the Stunt Man, about a runaway prisoner who somehow becomes a stunt man in a weird movie production run by a mad director played by Peter O'Toole. It mixes reality and the fantasy of movie making. It's just mad fun, beautifully written, Peter O'Toole acting very large and having a great time of it. Steve Railsback doing his usual manic energy. Barbara Hershey plays one of the actresses in the movie, the star of the movie. It's one of those movies that tells us and reminds us that Hollywood and Hollywood movie making is an insane enterprise with many insane people on it. Great soundtrack as well. I think it's Dominic Frontieri does the soundtrack on this one. But I want to rewatch The Stunt Man. I know I had this on VHS back in the day, and when I got rid of all the VHS tapes, it went with all of the rest of them. A great fun movie from 1980, if I am not mistaken. I really am. I've got to peel this thing off because I usually don't like these classic things on my movies for some reason. But there it is, released by Umbrella back in the day. Hasn't had a Blu-ray release in Australia yet, but I think it may be overdue for one. Let me know if you've seen this one too and whether you like it, because I really do. Then we're going way back even further to the 1940s, which was in all the newspaper. It stars Walter Pidgeon, Julian Bennett, George Sanders, John Carradine, Roddy McDowell, directed by the magnificent Fritz Lang. Manhunt. It's about an English aristocrat who travels to Germany in the pre-war period to see if he can assassinate Hitler. He wants to do it for the sport, and he gets caught by the Nazis, including George Sanders, based on a novel by Geoffrey Household. Unashamedly a propaganda movie, but it is a great one. While I'm not in favour of political assassination under any circumstances, I can understand how other people may think differently. And this one is definitely a wonderful piece of entertaining, tense, magnificent movie propaganda from the 1940s. It was remade in the 1970s as a TV movie with Peter O'Toole, but I think the original Fritz Lang version is better. It's got that black and white aesthetic about it. The TV movie I've only ever seen on VHS. O'Toole's pretty damn good in it, but I think the original is the one to go for. And Manhunt is worth checking out. This is the only movie that ever gave me an acid flashback. Oliver Stone film, terrifically acted, terrifically directed, beautiful production design, great music. The Doors, directed by Oliver Stone with Val Kilmer in it. Kyle MacLachlan's in there, Frank Whaley, Michael Madsen, and Kathleen Quinlan. I really like The Doors. Haven't seen it for a long time. I saw it in the cinema, and it made me feel incredibly trippy in parts. That's a bonus anyway. I only paid for a movie, got an acid trip on the way. That one is terrific, and I think it's very underrated. And Val Kilmer as Jim Morrison is superb. One of his best roles. Forget that shit where he was playing volleyball with Tom Cruise. This is the one you want to go with. It's got a sticker from Sanity on it saying I paid either $8.99 or I got it for $3 for $20 back in the day. Around the turn of the century, because this is a 20th anniversary special edition. I want to revisit that one as well and just see if I can get the same buzz out of it. But again, I'm a big fan of the Doors music. Big fan of Val Kilmer when he was at his height. And also some of the later films as well. Go check that one out. This one's one of the most magical movies of the 1950s, late 1950s. Directed by Marcel Camus. Black Orpheus. It's the story of Orpheus and Eurydice set in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro in the 1950s. It stars Breno Mello and Marpesa Dawn as Orpheus and Eurydice. It has the fantastic bossa nova music of Antonio Scala Jobim and Louise Bonfire. The soundtrack on this is a banger, and it introduced bossa nova music to America. This one's all region as well, which is kind of rare for this kind of thing. Who put this one out? Screenbound it is. It's the UK version of it. Beautiful, lively action, singing and dancing. It's a magnificent movie. And I want to rewatch it again, because I haven't watched it for about 5 years. And I think every 5 years, I should treat myself to Black Orpheus. If you haven't checked this one out, do. You're going to go on a ride. And I cannot speak highly enough of this film. The last one I got for you is a bit of a trick, because it's 7 movies. Not just 1, but 7. These were released from Umbrella Entertainment, and they were going for like $5 and $10 each. There is a Criterion release of all 7 movies. But for me, it'd be nice to have the Criterion release. But it's totally unnecessary, because for me, particularly with these ones, it's about the movies themselves. I've said it before, these are the distilled essence of a Western. They're like the au jus of a Western. They've stripped off everything superfluous and condensed down to the finest essence of the American Western. It's the renowned movies that Randolph Scott did with Barbetica. 7 Men from Now, which also has Lee Marvin in it. Fantastic movie with a killer opening. And there are special features on these as well, a whole bunch of them. There's that. These aren't in any particular order. The movies were made from the early 1950s to 1962. Buchanan Rides Alone, which is a really interesting one. about obsession, as indeed are many of the Ranown Westerns. The Tall Tea, which also stars Richard Boone. A fascinating little one just set in a town called Decision at Sundown. Who else is in this one? Valerie French, Karen Steele, Noah Beery, John Archer, Andrew Duggan. This one's very different for a Western. Comanche Station, which also stars Claude Akins. I love the upshot of this one. The ending of it is really fascinating, and it puts everything else in context. And possibly the best of them, which also stars Pernell Roberts. Ride Lonesome. Ride Lonesome is again about obsession. It's also got James Coburn in a very early role in it. These movies are just perfect Westerns. All 7 of them are incredibly entertaining, low budget, shot in the Alabama hills in California, distilled Westerns. I've got a couple of them on Blu-ray as well back here on the shelves. But I kind of like the Umbrella editions because they've got a consistency of look about them. Some of these you may still find on the Umbrella website. So if you go shopumbrellaent.com.au, you may well find them. But if you're a Western fan, these have got to be in your collection. There's no two ways about it. They are just perfect Westerns for me. And on what I sit down to rewatch them, I'll probably do it over maybe 2 or 3 days. I think I should cut myself 2 or 3 days when I do that. Let me know what you think if you've seen them, because they are, for me, just incredibly entertaining, incredibly satisfying, and incredibly worthwhile. So that's what I got for you this time around. A whole bunch of different recommendations. And I don't want to edit this video now. What I want to do is sit down and watch all these bloody movies, which of course is the peril of doing this kind of video. Nonetheless, I am going to edit the video. I'll get it up tomorrow morning for you. Let me know what you think of these movies. Any of the ones you've seen. Any of the ones you want to see. Because I think there's a whole bunch of really good stuff there. The other thing too is if you're a channel member, if you've donated to the channel, or if you're a Patreon supporter, I've still got the giveaway going for Eyes Without a Face. Let me know if you want to be in part of that, if you are a channel member, or if you are donating to the channel, or if you are a patron. I need to know those 3 categories because they're the people I'm going to be pulling out of a hat on the next live stream and sending the copy of this one to. Not this copy, the one that's already in bubble wrap and is ready to be put into an envelope and sent off to someone. So that's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, let me know what you think. You can also support the channel, of course, through those means. Patreon supporter at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. You can donate through YouTube, or you can become a channel member through YouTube. Next up, we've got Science Fiction Saturday, and there's some things along here I'm going to talk about. So until all of that happens, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Give yourself a treat, and I'll catch you next time.